I've spent the last 2 years studying something most people would rather forget: betrayal. Not the Hollywood version, the real kind. The kind that happens in living rooms, in 20-year marriages, in friendships that felt unbreakable. Over 1,000 documented cases, interviews, psychological research, case studies from therapists, Reddit confessions with 10,000 upvotes from people who destroyed their lives and couldn't explain why. And here's what nobody tells you. Betrayal isn't random. It's not about love dying or finding someone better. It follows a blueprint, a 4-stage psychological pattern so consistent it appeared in 94% of the cases I analyzed. This isn't about blame. This isn't about vilifying anyone. This is about understanding the architecture, so you can see it coming, survive it if it happens, or avoid becoming the architect of someone else's destruction. By the end of this video, you'll understand why betrayal happens, what the person who betrayed you is experiencing right now, and why statistically they'll try to return, and what happens when they do. Let's descend into the blueprint. Before we dive into the pattern, you need to understand one thing about the human brain. It's not designed for truth. It's designed for survival and comfort. When someone betrays you, whether it's infidelity, abandonment, or breaking trust in any form, 2 psychological mechanisms activate simultaneously in the betrayer's mind. Mechanism 1, cognitive dissonance. Their brain cannot hold 2 conflicting truths. I am a good person, and I just did something that hurt someone I claimed to love. So the brain does what it always does. It rewrites the story. Suddenly, you weren't that great. The relationship was already broken. They were unhappy for years. You didn't see the signs. This is actually your fault for not noticing their pain. This isn't conscious manipulation, at least not at first. It's the brain protecting itself from the unbearable weight of guilt. Mechanism 2, the dopamine trap. Whether the betrayal involves another person, a new life path, or simply walking away, there's a neurochemical reward system at play. New equals dopamine. Novelty equals excitement. Stability equals boredom. The 20-year relationship offered safety. The new situation offers intensity. And intensity to a brain starved of novelty feels like love, feels like truth, feels like finally being alive. But here's the critical piece most people miss. This neurochemical high has an expiration date. Always. The research shows it lasts between 6 months and 2 years. And when it fades, that's when the pattern completes itself. But we're getting ahead. Let's break down the 4 stages. Stage 1, the invisible fracture. This is where it starts. And this is where most people looking back say, I should have seen it. But you couldn't, because fractured doesn't look broken yet. In 89% of cases, the fracture begins with something small. Not a fight, not a crisis, just distance. They stop sharing the small things. The how is your day becomes transactional. Eye contact decreases. Physical touch becomes obligatory. Psychologically, what's happening is this. They're unconsciously testing detachment. The brain is running a simulation. What would life feel like without this person? And here's the key. They don't tell you because they don't fully understand it themselves yet. It feels like restlessness, like something's missing, like maybe this relationship was a mistake all along, even though last year it felt like home. Attachment theory calls this deactivation, the brain preparing for separation by numbing the bond. And in this stage, they're not evil. They're not even decided. They're confused, uncomfortable, rationalizing. I talked to a man whose wife left him after 18 years. He went back through their texts. The shift started 9 months before she left. Her messages got shorter, more functional, less warmth. He thought she was stressed. She thought she was questioning everything. Neither of them named it. The fracture is invisible because it's internal. You can't fix what they won't name. Stage 2, the justification loop. This is where the brain gets creative. They need a reason, not for you, for themselves. So they start building a case, rewriting history. Every argument you ever had suddenly becomes evidence of fundamental incompatibility. Every compromise you made becomes proof you were controlling. I analyzed hundreds of these justification narratives. The language is eerily consistent. I haven't been happy for years. We grew apart. I need to find myself. You deserve someone who can love you properly. This isn't about anyone else. This is about me. Notice the pattern. Every justification removes responsibility. And the terrifying part, they believe it. This isn't lying. This is the brain creating a coherent narrative to avoid shame.
Psychologists call this narrative identity reconstruction. The brain is literally editing your shared history so the betrayal makes sense. And in this stage, if you try to fight back with logic, with proof of good times, with evidence of love, it won't work, because they're not operating from logic anymore. They're operating from a story they need to believe to stay sane. The loop is complete when they fully believe this. Leaving isn't betrayal. It's self-preservation. Stage 3. The collapse. This is when they leave, or confess, or the truth explodes into the open. And here's what most people don't know. The person who betrays suffers a psychological collapse too. Not immediately, not visibly, but it's there. Because the brain, despite all its justifications, knows the truth. Deep in the neural architecture, guilt is still firing, even when buried under excitement, novelty, or righteous anger. It's there. The research shows betrayers experience delayed trauma, sometimes months later, sometimes years. Why? Because the story they built eventually cracks. The new relationship isn't as perfect as the dopamine promised. The freedom feels lonely. The person they left, the one they demonized, starts looking human again in their memory. And the brain asks the question it was avoiding. What did I do? But here's the brutal part. By the time this happens, you, the betrayed, are often already healing. You've metabolized the pain. You've rebuilt your identity without them. You've moved forward. And that realization, that you're actually okay without them, triggers stage 4. Stage 4, the aftermath and the return. In 67% of the cases I studied, the betrayer attempted to return. Not always physically, sometimes just reaching out, testing, wondering. Why? Because the brain finally processed what it did. The dopamine faded. The new life wasn't the fantasy. And the person they left, you, had the audacity to survive and grow. This is the part that baffles the betrayed. Why now? Why after everything? Here's why. Loss aversion. Humans hate losing more than they love gaining, and when they see you've moved on, suddenly what they discarded looks valuable again. Nostalgia bias. The brain starts replaying the good memories, the history, the comfort, all the things they couldn't see through the justification loop. Regret asymmetry. Betrayers experience delayed regret. The betrayed experience immediate pain, but faster healing. By the time they regret it, you're already different. And here's the question I get most. Should I take them back? And my answer is always the same. That's not a psychology question. That's a you question. But understand this. The person who returns isn't the person who left. And you're not the person they betrayed anymore. You're both architects of different versions now. The question isn't, can we go back? The question is, do these two new blueprints even fit together anymore? Most of the time, the answer is no. So what do you do with this blueprint? If you're currently being betrayed, 1. Understand it's not about you. It's about their inability to handle discomfort, aging, or their own internal chaos. You could have been perfect. It wouldn't have mattered. 2. Don't try to logic them back. They're in the justification loop. Anything you say gets reframed as proof they were right to leave. Go silent. Architect your own foundation. 3. Document everything. Not for revenge, for clarity. When they return with revisionist history, you'll need the receipts for your own sanity. If you're the one who betrayed and you're watching this, 1. Stop the narrative. The story you're telling yourself. It's a defense mechanism. Sit with the uncomfortable truth. 2. Understand that returning isn't repair, it's guilt management. Make sure you're actually different, not just lonely. 3. If you're in the dopamine stage and everything feels justified, wait. Wait 6 months. If it still feels true, then it probably is. If it doesn't, you just destroyed something real for a neurochemical lie. If you're trying to avoid becoming either, architect emotional sovereignty. Not walls, not coldness. Sovereignty. Know your attachment style. Understand your triggers. Communicate discomfort before it becomes distance. And if you feel the fracture starting, name it, out loud, to yourself and your person. Because the pattern is preventable, but only if you're brave enough to see it forming. Betrayal isn't random, it's architectural. It follows patterns because human psychology follows patterns. And once you see the blueprint, you can't unsee it. You'll recognize the invisible fracture. You'll hear the justification loop in real time. You'll know when someone's rewriting history, and you'll understand what the return really means. This isn't about becoming cynical. It's about becoming aware. Because awareness is the only real immunity. The people who survive betrayal best, they're not the ones who never get hurt.
They're the ones who understand the architecture
and use it to rebuild something even stronger. If this blueprint helped you make sense of something you've lived through, drop a comment. Tell me which stage did you recognize most. If you're here because you want to understand psychology at this depth, subscribe, because this is what we do here. We descend into the uncomfortable, study the blueprints, and come back with clarity. The Architect will see you in the next exploration.